Brandy. Brandy is a spirit distilled from fermented fruit products. Brandy classification. Made from grape juice, cognac, Armagnac of France, Laurinha of Portugal. Made from grape residue, grape pomace brandy grappa from Italy, Marc from France. Has a sharper taste. Made from fruit other than grapes, fruit brandy, also known as French eau de vie, clear, colorless, usually bottled immediately after distillation to preserve the flavor of the distilled fruit. Applejack, from the U.S., Calvados, from apples, Kirsch, from cherries, Mirabelle, from yellow plum. Except for strawberries, which are not sweet enough to make a wine with the alcohol content needed for distillation, strawberries are often soaked in brandy to extract the strawberry flavor and aroma. Made from cereals, grain brandy. Origin. First, brandy got its name from the Dutch root brandy wijgen, burned wine, from a German Dutch merchant named Den Heckenwijck, who traded wine from France to the Netherlands. He invented the wine distilling method to help preserve wine longer and make it easier for merchants to ship by Atlantic Sea. Furthermore, distillation reduces the volume of the alcohol due to the evaporation of the water present in the wine, thereby reducing transportation costs. The water that is separated is then added back to the wine just before it is consumed. It has been found that the liquor stored in wooden casks in transit has a very good quality improvement with a richer taste compared to the original wine, and the brandy production method formed from there. Brandy's origins are closely tied to the development of distillation, but it wasn't until the 15th century that brandy production became truly remarkable. In the early 16th century, French brandy helped kickstart the transatlantic trade triangle as it became a substitute for Portuguese fortified wine because of its high alcohol content and ease of transportation. Canoe drivers and securities in Africa are paid with brandy. The standard for evaluating the quality of brandy is that brandy must achieve the completely flammable factor, free from non-flammable substances such as colorants, sugar, and salt. Another, better test involved is to put a little gunpowder in the bottom of the spirit. If the gunpowder could ignite after the spirit was consumed by fire, then the liquor was good. Most brandy is produced from grapes, so the best brandy producing regions in the world are also where viticulture flourishes. At the end of the 19th century, French and Spanish brandy dominated the markets of Western Europe and their colonies, and in Eastern Europe, brandy Georgia, the Crimea, and Bulgaria, the countries of Black Sea. Technology. Each brandy carries the characteristics of each region. Therefore, people name brandy after the name of that region, such as brandy produced in Cognac region, France is called Cognac. Brandy produced in Armagnac region, France is called Armagnac, and brandy produced in other regions, in other countries it is just called brandy. High-quality brandy is produced from base wine. Wines are produced from selected grape varieties and harvested when they are still green, at this time with high acidity and low sweetness. Production. First distillation, brandy is distilled from wine. The distillation process removes water and hard substances and yields a low wine with an alcohol content of about 28 to 30% ABV. Fermented wine will be poured into distillation tanks and then into brick kilns. The furnaces are heated to temperatures between 173 degrees Fahrenheit 78.3 degrees Celsius and 212 degrees Fahrenheit 100 degrees Celsius until the alcohol evaporates and separates from the remaining liquid. The steam is collected in the lid and duct neck of the tub. Then passed through a condenser coiled chicken intestine. The resulting liquid, called brulees, is now reduced to 1/3 of its original volume and contains about 30% alcohol. Second distillation, this is a step that requires precision because the distiller must decide at what time in the process to separate the so-called heart of the liquid from the head and the end of it. The first part has too much alcohol, about 83% ABV, and an unpleasant smell, while the end is lacking in substance. These two parts will be mixed with another batch of low wine for redistillation. The resulting liquid is distilled alcohol. At this point, the volume has decreased by another third and the alcohol content has increased to 70%. Such a large reduction in volume means that distilling cognac is a costly process. Aging: brandy obtained after distillation will be aged in oak barrels, then brandy will usually have a natural yellow or brown color. Some brandies use caramel and sugar to color brandy aged in non-wooden barrels. Mixing and bottling: this step must follow a predetermined recipe of each manufacturer. Brandy only shows its full quality when it is combined, mixed together under the concoction of an expert mixologist. Distilled water, water separated during the distillation process, is added to reduce the alcohol content as desired before the brandy is bottled. In Europe, brandy is distilled from wine, grape pomace brandy, and aged for at least 6 months in oak barrels. Do not produce grain brandy. All imported brandy is called fruit brandy or pomace brandy. In the US, brandy, if not distilled from wine, must specify what kind of brandy is distilled from. For example, peach brandy, mango brandy, red cherry brandy, dried fruit brandy, Old Hampshire blended applejack, Neversink apple brandy, Clear Creek blue plum brandy. If the brandy is aged in oak barrels for less than 2 years, it must be stated on the bottle label immature. In Canada, similar brandy regulations in the US. In addition, the brandy must be aged for at least 6 months in oak barrels or other materials such as stainless steel barrels, then the brandy will be colored and flavored from caramel, herbs, fruits. Brandy of Austria and Germany is called wine brand. Label terms: French brandy. VS, very special, or 3 stars. The youngest blend is aged for at least 2 years in oak barrels. VSOP, very superior old pale, or reserve, or 5 stars. The youngest blend is aged for at least 4 years in oak barrels. XO, extra old, or Napoleon, the youngest blend is aged for at least 6 years in oak barrels. Or DH, beyond age. The youngest blend is aged for at least 10 years in oak barrels. The term or DH is used for high-quality brandy. Spanish brandy, Brandy de Jerez. Produced in the Jerez region of the autonomous community of Andalusia, southern Spain. The Jerez region produces 95% of Spain's brandy. The Jerez region is also famous for sherry wine production. Today, each year Spain produces about 80 million bottles of Brandy de Jerez and a quarter of the brandy is consumed domestically. The main grape used for the production of the Brandy de Jerez is the white grape Aran, which is drought tolerant and is grown on almost twice the area as other grape varieties and is popular in central Spain. Conditions to be called Brandy de Jerez. Distilled spirits must be aged in American oak barrels, 500 liters capacity, which are already used for aging sherry for at least 3 years so that the oak characteristics become more neutral. Distillation is not required. Made in the Jerez region and from grapes grown in that region. The Solera system must be used during the aging process. Solera system are spirits aged in oak casks and deposited in layers. The bottom layer is called Solera. Older spirits and larger casks, Brandy de Jerez extracted for bottling from Solera casks, approximate 1/4 tank capacity. The missing capacity of the Solera tank is then replenished directly from the tank layer directly above it. And the process goes on for the above crate layers. Extraction is done normally every 4 months, sometimes after 1 or 2 years. Trademark terms. Brandy de Jerez Solera, youngest average age is 6 months. Brandy de Jerez Solera Reserva, 1 year. Brandy de Jerez Solera Gran Reserva, 3 years. Culinary usage, used as a sauce for main dishes prepared by pan-frying and to enhance the flavor of soups, known as French onion soup. Brandy is used in British Christmas cakes, Christmas cake, Christmas pudding, and brandy butter. Desserts prepared by the fast-burning method, still retaining 75% of the alcohol content of brandy: banana flambe, cherries jubilee, crepe Suzette. Serving, wine-like way of drinking, shake and smell. Drink unmixed, neat/sec, at room temperature or warm a snifter brandy glass with a small candle and pour just enough so that when the glass is lying down, brandy just touches the rim. Or warm brandy by holding the brandy glass in the palm of your hand. Distinguish Cognac and Armagnac. 1. Grapes. Grapes used for Armagnac are Ugni Blanc, Val Blanche, Colombard, and Bacco. The grapes used for Cognac are 98% Ugni Blanc. 2. Geography. Armagnac's finest grapes are grown on sandy soils in warm temperatures in the southwest of France. Cognac's finest grapes are grown on chalky soil with mild temperatures, about 100 miles north of the Armagnac region, near the Atlantic coast. 3. Oak barrels. Armagnac is usually aged in either Limousin forest oak or Gascon local oak. Cognac is aged in Limousin and Troncaeus oak casks. 4. Distillation. Traditional Armagnac is usually a single distillation in a mobile alembic distillation column. Cognac must be distilled twice in a copper pot still. 5. Alcohol content. Traditional Armagnac has a typical alcohol content between 46% ABV and 48% ABV. Cognac alcohol content is reduced with petites eaux, product obtained after first distillation or distilled water, to 40% ABV. 6. Grape year. Traditional Armagnac gives grape chronology. Vintages are extremely rare for Cognac. Instead, Cognac is almost always a blend of many different vintages. 7. Single grape variety. The only grape used for Armagnac is quite popular, especially Val Blanche. Rarely see a variety printed on the Cognac label. 8. Basic differences between Cognac and Armagnac flavors. Armagnac often has a more fruity flavor than Cognac. Most typical fruits include grape flowers, oranges, plums, quince, and apricots. The fruit flavors of Cognac tend to be lighter. Cognac has flavors of pear, orange, and more floral notes. The combination of Armagnac and sugar from oaks usually brings out flavors of vanilla, caramel, toffee, maple syrup, and distinctive flavors of coconut milk. Cognac's interaction with oak often brings many spices, often herbs, resins. Traditional Armagnac does not go through a reduction in alcohol content. Thus, its high alcohol concentration helps to promote concentrated aromas from the glass. The flavor of our Cognac is not always as ready as Armagnac when Ugni Blanc is the main grape and because the Cognac is diluted to 40% ABV. With aging, Armagnacs often develop earthy and smoky flavors. Interestingly. 9. The popular life cycle of Cognac and Armagnac. The components of both Armagnac and Cognac go through stages in their life cycles. Fresh fruit, plums, apricots, pears, quince, and floral notes transform into dried fruit. Strong toffee flavor turns into soft toffee, then cream, or even butter. Slow oxidation in the barrel is responsible for the almond and walnut flavors on the surface. Wooden casks bring out flavors of pepper, clove, and cinnamon, eventually overpowering the rest of the fruit with tannin. Thus, according to the history of a wine, no matter how good it is, if it is not possible to reach a large market, it is difficult to become famous and popular, and here, Armagnac is an example, typical example. Although Armagnac brands are now trying to do marketing to grow their market share, and one thing they certainly know is that Cognac has become the household name and habit of consumers when it comes to brandy. 10 famous manufacturers. Cognac, Hennessy, Courvoisier, Martel, Remy Martin, Camus, Otard. Armagnac, Chabot, Semp, Sommelans.